for joining us today for episode 13 of the Survive and Thrive Challenge. I'm Laura Brandao, the president of AFR, and I would like to introduce you to my wonderful challengers this week. From California, we have Andrew Kunisawa, a loan officer at Accelerated Lending Group. From the same place as me, New Jersey, we have Brittany, Molawka, the ops manager at Paradise Mortgage Brokers. And from Arizona, we have PJ Harrigan, the Western Regional Director for Total Expert. For those first timers that are joining us, let me explain why we're here and what we're looking to provide. On the first week of quarantine, my good friend Seppi, the CEO of Tego, reached out to me in a bit of a panic. She said, "Oh my goodness, Laura, I'm 2 weeks away from a big product launch, and my entire team just got sent home in shelter in place, and we are now working remotely." Now, she reached out to me thinking that I was going to say, "Oh, Seppi, it'll be okay." But instead, she was surprised to hear, "Oh, Seppi, you have no idea what is going on in the mortgage business right now." And at that moment, we decided to come together, add a third person, Sam Parker, to the conversation and go live and explain some of what we were thinking of at that time. Well, for now, the 13th week, we have come together with different people joining us to share their perspectives and insights so that we can learn a little bit about how we survived and how we are now thriving. So first up, Andrew, please tell us, okay, here we are, beginning of March, everything's changing. Please tell us what's going on in your world, professionally and personally.
I think the biggest thing is the beginning of the March was we had just gotten back from the Arrive Activate conference in Irvine, and I was really excited. There was a little bit of chatter about the virus going around. I wasn't really very concerned about it. I thought it was going to be something that was a little bit more hype than reality, and so I was really excited to be there. I was focused on what was coming next, the information that was shared there. So professionally, I was really excited at that time, right after the beginning of March. I was really in the zone of putting things together, putting information out, and I was really excited about that. Then once everything started and we started getting a little bit more serious information about what was going on, and then we started getting the directions: shelter at home, stay at home, stay safe at home, and they started putting restrictions on. Where I live in California, the restrictions were were a little stronger than in some other areas. So my wife and I really talked about it, prayed about it, and thought that it was really best for us, for our health situations, and for the people that we have older parents and we care for some people like that, that we really should listen and stay safe at home. So it was a huge personal change for us because we're used to being out, being active, doing things, and now being confined at home was a huge change. As that started to go on, day after day, of course there's new challenges that come with that. My wife basically stopped working. She works at a doctor's office as a medical biller. So she's been home pretty much this whole time.
Right.
And now she's stuck with me.
I was going to say, Andrew, how does that work? Because that's a big change, right? It's a big change that you guys had your time apart during the day, yes, where you did your thing and she did hers. And now all of a sudden, you are literally together nonstop. 24/7. So how do you adjust to that?
Well, there's always adjustments, and it's not like it's seamless. There's never any problems. There's never any arguments. There's never any difficulties, because that's just real life. And having to have me around all the time was hard. And she knows that I work a
Yeah.
lot of hours. I mean, she already knows that. I'm usually up early, I'm usually working late, and she sees the part when she's not here. But during the day, it's hard. It's an adjustment.
Yeah.
So, for her, I mean, I can't speak for her. I could turn the camera around and let her talk.
We're
I'm not
throwing
going to do
misses
that for
on
her.
too.
But I know that it's an adjustment. It's adjustment for her. It's adjustment for me because I want to spend more time, doing things with her.
Sure.
But my work life is crazy busy like everybody else.
So you come back from Activate. I mean, I think we all, right? All of us left that conference feeling unstoppable. We felt, man, we are in such a good place. As we were there, the bond was dropping. I mean, we were all
Yep.
crazy with everyone was on the phone taking applications practically, while they were at the conference.
Right.
So what was that like? Because not only do you have shelter in place, not only do you have the adjustment of now personally you're together, but you've got this change going on in the mortgage business in
Right.
terms of, first it was influx of business, then it was programs changing and guidelines changing. What happened there?
Yeah, it was a big impact, and I've been in the mortgage industry since the '90s, and so I've gone through a couple of the downturns. I've gone through a couple of the bubbles, the explosions, um, and every time it's different. The first meltdown that I went through in the '90s was the subprime meltdown way back when. That was totally crazy, and then 2008 was a whole different one.
I
This,
actually remember both also, Andrew. I can tell you I was there too.
thank
I
you.
remember. Most people don't remember the one in the 90s.
No, I appreciate that. So into this year when we started having all of these things happen, and you know literally it felt like the rug got pulled out from
Yeah.
underneath you, because some of the lending programs that were solid normal programs basically didn't exist anymore.
Right.
But I think the biggest difference was today we have incredible communication across all channels, from our lenders. We have more information from the experts. So we have people like Barry Habib that we
Yeah.
have access to, who is invaluable to us.
Yes.
Kevin Peranio,
Yeah.
we have so many that are sharing what's
You're
going
right.
on in the mortgage on the backside that we don't. I mean, as loan originators, we don't really know, but when we get that information, it empowers us to be able to give good information to our people. And so while all that was happening, it was stressful because there were several loans that I lost out on at that time that I couldn't do. The program shut down. They went elsewhere. They did other things. And that's just the way it is. Financially, yes, that hurts me. But in the big picture of things, you know, it all worked out for the best for
Right.
them.
Right.
And so I didn't make a few dollars here, a few dollars there. The main thing is that I was able to educate and able to enable the people that I was with, give them the information so that they could make really good decisions. And I felt so much better about that than the last time
Mm-hmm.
when there was a complete meltdown and nobody really knew what was going on.
No.
Nobody was talking about, this is what we should expect, this is what could happen, this is what we are going to see, and this is how it's going to recover. We never had that information.
You're right. Well, it was because everybody was fractured, right? No,
Yes.
everyone was separate and they weren't together. And so the communication just never went out. And it was almost like, well, if I hold on to this information, I'll do better than someone else. Where this time it was, we're in it together,
We're going
right?
to share
And
that across
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
And I have to give a lot of credit to Anthony Casa and the whole AIM team for
100%.
what they've done to help bring all of us together, but then share the information
Mm-hmm.
across peer to peer, because that's such a powerful thing when you have people that you're working side by side doing the same thing all across the country, and you're able to talk to them and see what they're doing, what's happening in their world, and peer to peer you're able to communicate that. It's just an invaluable thing that's happened, and I'm so grateful that Anthony has done that. The whole AIM team is
Mm-hmm.
incredible about putting information out, helping us in any way that they can, and I think professionally for me that's been the biggest thing that has been a big help during this time.
Agree.
I think the
Totally
social
agree.
One
media
other brief,
aspect of it too.
Well, yeah, right. I
Yeah.
mean, it's that whole you're not sitting there wondering, right? You have the information, you can speak to your peers, you can collaborate, right? That's the difference of all of a sudden it's a network. It's all together. All
Yes.
right. Well, awesome. All right, Brittany, I know you had a lot going on. You had a lot of things happening. You had a lot of change there. So Andrew was probably the easy one. Let's hear what was going on in your world.
So professionally and personally, I had a lot change. Obviously, I wasn't in Irvine. I wish I could have been, but I was holding down the fort with all the processing. And then as soon as everybody came back, it was like, boom, something just exploded. And then following the news, and I'm not one to follow the news. Like I try to stay away from it because it just infuriates me because I feel like everything's like blown out of proportion, right? And then COVID started hitting and people started getting sick, and then it hit home with somebody I actually knew. And so I was like, okay, I'll kind of take it seriously. And so then, you know, with work, we saw a lot of guideline changes. We had the luxury where I was, you know, to work with LOs across the nation. And so I was seeing not only guideline changes with, you know, lenders, but I was seeing it statewide. You know, we had, and then right around the time that COVID hit, Tennessee also had, you know, a tornado, and we had like all these different things happening.
That's
and
right.
So we were impacted in so many different ways. And then I was crazy enough to go, I think I'm going to switch jobs.
Perfect.
Oh, all right. And then I said to my husband, I know we're switching jobs and everything, but can I also suggest that we buy a house? So
of course,
you know, who just takes, you know, so we
Brittany,
every lender says no.
Yeah, but Brittany, the only thing you missed is you should have a baby too during that time also.
No,
you got a puppy instead.
I have a 12-year-old. I'm set. I'm good. Yeah. So I just said, like, hey, you know, why don't I reach out to one of the lenders that we work with and see if I can get an approval? And then when he said yes, I was like, oh, great, let's go buy a house. Like we're going to go right now. And so we reached out to a realtor that is really close friend. And she's like, yeah, there's a couple houses. You want to go see them? And we saw them with our masks on, and we had to put booties on, but it worked out. And we were under contract in 72 hours. We bought during COVID. We went through the whole experience. And then right after I bought my house, 3 days later, I took a new job.
Wow.
So yeah, quick. It was really crazy, like all the stuff that had happened. But I also looked at it as we have moved. I think I had told you, you know, we've lived in Utah. We lived in South Carolina. We bounced around my husband's military, and then we moved around for my job as well. And having those different backgrounds, I think, you know, helped me learn and grow, and we were able to, you know, buy houses in different states. And then this is the first time we actually bought at home, and it felt, even though COVID is such a serious topic, I felt like maybe it was a blessing for us because we bought a house close to home. We bought a house that is 10 minutes from, you know, my brother-in-law, my mother-in-law, and now we're back home, and everything feels right. Like it feels like it was just all meant
That's
to
wonderful.
happen.
So what was the experience like? I understand you had the booties, you have the mask. What was the experience like going through purchasing a home during a pandemic?
Well, I can tell you they obviously, you know, it was kind of crazy with the verifications of employment. Like everyone wants to make sure that you're not going to lose your job. So I had to write a ton of letters. Like my letters of explanation had to be detailed on why I felt like I wasn't going to lose my job. And not only that, but then I also had to verify, you know, my employment for the past 2 years, like a normal person would, but they had to call and say, she's not making up what she's saying, right? And so they literally reached out to my old employers and asked questions and said, why do you feel like her job is secure now? And my old employer was like, what? Like, why are you asking me that? And it's funny, but yeah, they were very detailed with asking like why my job was secure and why I felt like, and then right afterwards I quit my job. So it's funny to me. But yeah, they just were very detailed about everything, and even like the inspections being done on the homes, we had that happen, and I felt like it was really detailed. Only one person could go, opposed to having, you know, a couple or a family show up at the inspection. The appraisal wasn't a real appraisal, it was just a drive-by. So when we got our homeowners insurance, they came out and took pictures to make sure that the house was valid, because they didn't have a real appraisal to go off of. So that was another thing. No, PJ, my husband is Army.
Oh, okay. So when I talked about the F-35s flying overhead, they were coming out of Hill Air Force Base, and that's where I was getting the noise.
Yeah, he's Army. So,
Okay.
but yeah, no.
Brittany, how did you do the closing? How did they actually do the closing part?
So we have attorneys here in Jersey, and so the title took a lot longer. The township was shut down for a little while, so that took a little while. And then we finally got title back, but the attorney had to sign off on it. And then it was funny because everyone was like so worried about, you know, signing during the pandemic, and you can't do it. We went to the attorney's office in masks. I took a picture, in fact, with my husband, and I have our masks on. We get inside, the attorney doesn't have one on. I'm like, do I have to wear this? And he's like, no, you're good. You can take it off. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Because I was there for over an hour signing, and we had some other stuff happening. And so I was so glad to take that thing off. I was just so happy that they let us. But now we still go out, and anywhere you go, you have to wear that mask.
Yep. Wow. So that's great. And there were homes on the market for you to be able to look at and to purchase.
Yeah. I mean,
that's great.
All the time, and even still going through the pandemic, I'm seeing my realtors in the area have so many houses, especially here in Ocean County. There are just tons and tons available. Even the summer rentals, like, you know, here where the Jersey Shore, I live the next town over from where the Jersey Shore was filmed. So those summer rentals are even starting to pile up now. They're not being rented, and so people now are like lowering the rents. I think it's affecting this whole pandemic has affected everything in our in New Jersey, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, sounds like you're in good shape now. So awesome. All right, PJ, I think you've got some change that was happening during this also. So tell us about that.
So I started a new job also on March 23rd, and I was supposed to fly to Minneapolis to be onboarded, and that weekend before I was starting, you know, the governor of Minnesota came out and said, shelter at home. Mm-hmm. So we had to scramble to do a virtual onboarding. And so it's been a little weird being at a new company and not being able to physically be with your new teammates. Luckily on the team that I manage, I knew all but one of the people already. So I at least had a relationship with them.
Oh, good.
And the person who really hired me, I have a relationship with him. I knew the CEO. I knew Sue Woodard, who runs our customer success. So I do have relationships, but there's a lot of other people that I don't know and I haven't got to meet. And we were talking earlier, I'm a bit of a social person, and it's, you know, we're spending all this time on Zoom, and it's been great that we've accomplished a lot with Zoom, but it's a little weird for me not being able to truly connect and have that one-on-one connection with people and getting to know them. But the other side of it is, from a professional perspective, we're super busy. People seem to have time, even though if you look in the mortgage space, my wife is a producing branch manager. She is up to her eyeballs in purchase loans and super swamped, and that's pretty common. But what this pandemic has helped us is that people realize they need to make sure that they're communicating in the most effective and best way. And that has driven people to us and wanting to hear our message and what we're doing. So staying really busy. I will tell you that, I don't know if anybody of you guys saw it, but there was an article published about Zoom fatigue and how I just couldn't figure out. It was an article that said that people are finding that they're spending so much time on Zoom, and when they're done, they're just wiped out.
They're wiped, right?
And it's because, I may have a little bit of ADD, so I have to work really hard to concentrate when I'm on a Zoom call. What did you do when you were on a conference call? Nobody could see you. You'd be multitasking. For me, I'm a wanderer. So when I was on conference calls, I walk around a lot. But with Zoom calls, you're there, you're focused. Yeah. And when you're done, what this article said is that it just drains you. And my wife was
PJ, did they give you a recommendation of what to do to avoid Zoom fatigue? Or
I think I can't remember. I'll have to go back and see if I can find that article. I think exercise was part of it.
Okay.
And I've been trying to do that. But on a personal perspective, I'm a guy that's for the past 21 years traveled anywhere from 3 to 4 days a week. So I went from traveling and never being home to being home. And
so we have to ask you the same question that we asked Andrew. All of a sudden, you've got a lot of time with your wife. So now you've got this change. So,
and you know what? I'm probably one of the few guys who will say, I'm good. I'm good being home. I've this might be too much information, but I have never spent this many nights next to my wife in bed ever in our relationship. And I kind of like it. It's nice to wake up next to your wife in the morning. I've enjoyed being home. I like to cook. So, been doing a lot of cooking. I jumped on the sourdough wagon.
Everybody's making sourdough.
So that perspective is,
I know nothing about this whole
I don't know either,
trend.
but everybody is baking sourdough.
You couldn't get
I need to learn about this. So we're going to research this after the call.
So you couldn't get yeast, so people started making sourdough, and I did that. So I for 14 days I was nurturing
he's
sourdough.
kneading the bread.
And I finally was able to make sourdough, and I've split off some of my sourdough starters for others, and it's been fun. But it's also been good for me is that I've been able to lose some weight. I've been able to exercise regularly and sleep a lot better just because I'm home. So
that's awesome.
That part of it's been nice.
And PJ, you had mentioned a story the other night about your daughter, about when you went you had a little bit of a scare when she went back to school. Share that a little bit.
So my wife is a breast cancer survivor, so she has a bit of a compromised immune system, and so when we started to take it much more seriously, it was when our church got canceled. For us, that was a big deal. And it happened right when our daughter had been on spring break, and she's a freshman at the University of Arizona. And during her spring break, the University of Arizona came out and said, we're going to cancel all in-person classes, do it all online. We want you to stay at home. So my daughter had to go down to Tucson and get, some of her essential living items out of her dorm. And she was in a sorority. So she stopped by the sorority house. And one of the girls who was at the sorority house at the same time posted on Facebook 2 days later that she had tested positive for the coronavirus. And since my daughter was exposed to her, we went into a pretty hardcore lockdown for 14 days. Not venturing out, doing anything. I became the master of ordering groceries online and all those types of things. But it was a little, knowing that my wife does have a compromised immune system, it was a kind of a scary thing. I am happy to say that we did get tested. We did the drive-through test a couple of days ago. We were both COVID free. My wife also had her routine blood work done, and they did the antibody test, and that came back negative. So it's been hard because we have a 10-year-old still at home.
Right.
And, she's seeing her friends from school do overnights and play dates. And we've been pretty hardcore, not trying to socialize and keep our circle of friends.
to what you're saying, I have a 10 and 12-year-olds, and I think that the hardest part about this whole pandemic is that my kids don't understand it.
It's
The
hard.
mental health side of it, my kids hate the distant learning. They always cry,
Yeah.
like, I want to go see my friends. Because New Jersey, I mean, a lot of other states are opened back up, and they're seeing, you know, our friends in South Carolina hang out, do things, and New Jersey's hardcore locked down. And that's the hardest part, is my kids can't go back to cheer. They can't do any of that stuff. And that, I think, is the hardest part on me as a mom.
I think the hardest part on us was homeschooling.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and all praise goes to my wife, because she was juggling a lot of balls, and she was much better at juggling the home teaching ball than I was. So I'm thankful.
But it's hard when we're working parents. You can't just take time off. And even though I work from home, and I've worked from home for 10 years, it's very hard to switch to algebra. Mom, I have to figure this out, or I have to help with spelling, and I'm trying to write an approval letter. Like, that's impossible.
You know, and Arizona's come out and said that they're thinking about doing a 4-day school week, or doing an AB where you would go.
Yeah.
And, you know, you
They
think about it as
alternate,
working parents,
right?
how do you balance that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know for us, my wife usually once a week babysits our granddaughter.
Mhm.
So since the middle of March, we decided to stop that part, because she's around a lot of other people, and so we had made that decision. And that's probably, for us personally, has been the hardest
That's
part.
hard.
Not to see our grandbaby. My wife is not happy about that at all, and so we're
I
just
can't believe
trying.
you're old enough to have grandkids.
Oh yeah, we have a 37-year-old and a 28-year-old.
I'm old enough. I'm just glad that I don't have them.
I'm actually awaiting anxiously. So I can't wait, Andrew. So that's got to be so tough for your wife. That really is, you know.
It is.
All right. So great. Okay, we went through this and met great stories, everyone. This really touches in so many ways. So now let's fast forward. Okay, here we are, 13 weeks later. We've gone through that initial stage. Now we've adjusted our routines. Now it's the quote new normal. Tell us, Andrew, what have you learned from this, or professionally, personally, that you actually are like, hey, I'm going to continue doing this, or I think I got a wake up call and I'm going to stay on this path? What would you say?
Well, for me, I always work from home like Brittany, so my work part for that hasn't changed. One of the things that PJ had mentioned, that his church shut down, when everything happened, mine did too, and so I was very instrumental in getting our church back up in line and doing Zoom meetings.
Ah.
And so since the middle of March, everybody's been doing that, and we've been able to stay connected by that. And I think the thing that I take away from this is that people are very resilient when they know that there's a reason for something. And maybe they don't even agree with it, but if they understand the reason, they're willing to try something out. So I've been able to be a part of helping a lot of people, and people that are like 80 years old, 85 years old, figure out how to participate in a Zoom meeting.
Aww.
Has been really,
Awesome.
really incredible. And so I know that in the past, there's been times when I've resisted maybe some of the technology part, because I'm a very, like PJ, I'm a very personable person. I'm a hugger.
Mhm.
I like the one-on-one contact. So, I've kind of resisted trying to use some of this technology, but now I see, and I think people are more open to it now, being able to stay connected in this way, that I never really thought that people would accept it, people would allow it, but now people are embracing it and seeing a tool that they could actually use and benefit from. And I think for me, that's one of the things that I've enjoyed the most out of all of this, is getting to help other people and connect with them on a different level, different way than I had before.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. And kudos to you for doing that. And yes, let's keep that going. That's
You get
fantastic.
my 93-year-old mom to agree to let me
Got
get
that,
her a
Andrew?
smartphone so I can FaceTime her.
I'll help her
Yes.
out. I'm telling you, it's been a struggle with some. And when you have like 85-year-old people and they have a cell phone, they have like a iPhone or whatever, I mean, it takes like a half an hour, 45 minutes, but we've set people up remotely. We don't go to their houses. We've set people up remotely and get them on Zoom talking, raising their hands with the little participation thing, not their,
That's
but they're
awesome.
virtual. It's
That is
crazy.
awesome.
Oh, I love that. I can just picture it. It's awesome. Oh, that's great. All right, Brittany, what have you learned from all this that you're like, hey, this is a good thing. We're going to keep this going.
Okay, so I'm going to be hoarding toilet paper. For like,
That's one thing you've learned. Huh?
Right now, I can tell you that that was like the scariest part is like, I have 2 kids and yeah, we gotta get toilet paper. On a serious note though, like I have learned that I can't take things for granted because like, you know, other people, I am very social. I'm a social butterfly. I'll talk to anybody. And so I've learned that I have got to really, there are days where I just feel down and out and I have to go outside and I have to take a fresh, you know, a breath of fresh air, because if I don't, I definitely feel like my depression acts up more because I'm not getting out and doing that. And I really, during COVID, it really caught me. I was like, I need to get outside. I don't care if I go to Walmart just to walk around annoying people. Like I need to be out. And so that's one thing that I've really learned about myself, that I have to, even though I'm at the computer 8 hours, 10 hours a day, I have to take a few minutes and walk outside, because if not, I feel myself drowning, you know.
So Brittany, let me ask you a question about that, and totally can relate to that.
No,
so tell me about when you first started getting those feelings. Did you know how to, you know, okay, the solution is for me to go out and go for a drive or go to Walmart, or did you have to kind of get to this point of let me see what works best for me?
I have always been the type of person, and my husband used to hate it until he started working from home and realizing that I always needed to go out. After work, I would log off, I would go outside, I would leave my house on the weekends. I wouldn't see it for the entire weekend. And that was my way of always disconnecting, because I always work from home. And then during this, I started realizing like, oh, my depression's way worse today because I'm not going out and because I'm trapped at home and I don't have the ability to just go to the grocery store in the middle of the day. So I did recognize that that's where a lot of my like down and out feelings were coming from. And so I started to just push myself to go out and really, even on days where I don't want to, I still do it because I have to. If not, I just feel very like, okay, today's gonna be a bad day.
Sure. And it's very interesting. You know, we've been doing this for 13 weeks and I've heard so many different stories. And, you know, this week we actually have all extroverts. Normally I have one introvert mixed in with the extroverts, but this week we have a full group of the same. We're all similar. But it's funny that the introverts, they say, I didn't see any different. I had no problem being at home and I was okay with being by myself and I'm just cool. But it seems the extroverts like us, where we're the huggers and we want to be by people and we want to feel the energy from each other, we struggled with it a lot more than the other. So it's really interesting.
I'm a big believer on the mental health aspect, even before COVID, you know, because I suffer from depression and anxiety and always have. And so I'm very outspoken about the fact that I do suffer because I want to help others. If I can help educate others, then that's how I feel. And it's been an eye opener to really see how many people suffer. And this has set, you know, there's articles out there saying how bad COVID is affecting us as a society. It's pushing people to be worse with their anxiety, their OCD, the mental health side is worse than I think that the COVID has been.
Yeah, I think there's going to be many ramifications for a long time that you're not going to realize, you know, initially, but I 100%. Definitely tend to agree with that.
You know, you say that, Laura, about the introverts. when COVID first started, and I called my mom, and I'm trying to call my mom every day and talk to her because she's 93. And I said, how you doing with this whole shelter in place? She goes, I've been sheltering in place for years. It's not like I'm going anywhere.
Where am I going? Right? Where am I going?
And that was kind of a funny perspective on mine. I didn't really think about that. Don't have a car anymore, shouldn't drive. So
exactly. Well, keep her in a bubble, just keep her safe. And, that's what we have to do for that. All right. So PJ, I already know you got healthy, you're exercising, you're feeling good, you're sleeping well, all that. So I know that's for sure. Is there anything, obviously you love being home with your missus and your family.
I do. I've learned that my wife is not happy with me when I make sourdough bread.
The sourdough bread, Brittany.
And everything while I'm home. So I've learned that I've got to moderate some of my cooking because she gets mad at me for that. But from a professional basis, you don't always have to hop on a plane. You can.
Right.
There are a lot of benefits of not having to do that. Like for me though, it goes back to I love that interaction with people. I love getting to know them, and so I've always had this love-hate relationship with travel. I love being out in the field with the people, with my team, selling. I hate the hassle of flying and rental cars because you don't eat right, you don't sleep right. I've missed so many things with my family. So I've learned that you don't always have to jump on a plane. So we'll see how that plays out in the future. If we'll stick to more of a Zoom life going forward, or if it will be back to the new normal will be the old normal in terms of traveling. It's probably going to be somewhere in the middle of it. I can tell you I'm not really excited about jumping on an aluminum hot dog and with 300 of my closest and dearest friends for a 3-hour flight anywhere soon. But I do miss being with other people. For me, Brittany, the way I've been able to really manage the mental health part of it is exercise. I've been a bicyclist for my entire life, used to race bikes, and for the past at least 10 years or so, I've not been able to ride my bike as much as I would like. And I don't have to go out and do 4 or 5 hour rides like I used to, but it's nice to get out for an hour ride every day. And it helps me mentally. Even my wife has said that when I come home, there's a difference in me from when I left my bike and when I come back from my bike. And it's just, I'm out there, I'm sweating, I'm clearing my mind. I don't think about it. I do think about things, but I don't maybe obsess about things. And for me, that's the way I've been able to stay sane. And I think it's also how my wife stays sane because I'm gone for an hour. I'm not her. So
he's not making sourdough bread.
Yeah.
He's out doing something else.
Friendship bread.
I keep talking about my wife, and that she's going to be my nominee for next week, but it's been, she doesn't usually work from home. I have worked from home,
right?
Not the one day a week or so. So I've been doing that for a while. So I've mastered the ability to, when you got to stop, and she's working from home and she's super busy, and it's been hard for her to do that work-life balance. But it's been great for me to observe her and observe her success during this period and learn more about how she does her business and see it firsthand. So that's been kind of a joy for me.
And that's so interesting because you've been together for a long time, but yet it took this to kind of be able to observe that. So that's actually, that is a blessing that you were able to get out of that. So that's
I learned a lot from her, and so it's been good for me to watch her do her thing. So,
well, I think there's going to be one of two things, right? It's the people that realized how great they have it in the relationships, and the people that realize maybe this is not a good relationship. So I think you're getting both sides, right? I think one or the other is happening at this time.
These are a whole other story.
What's
that?
Like, I could maybe use some separation from my kids a little, but
Yeah.
I
be
think
home with them, but
Brittany's signing up for that too, a little bit, just a
Oh,
little.
my birthday's next week. I already called grandma and asked for a babysitter since the restaurants are opening. I was like, come on, grandma, sign back up. It's been a couple months.
I'm sure grandma's happy to do that too.
She's very happy. Yeah, she loves it. She loves it.
we actually
Absolutely.
drove 12 hours to Utah and are staying.
Just to have family watch the kids.
Well, part of it is, we've got a 10-year-old still at home. And I mean, besides the 19-year-old that's still at home, but our daughter loves her 10-year-old cousin.
Sure.
And they're able to, we're still working from a hotel room, but our daughter is spending time at grandma's with her cousin.
That's wonderful.
And that's, been great.
That's great. That is
Yeah.
awesome. All right. We are up to the time when we do our nominees for next week's challenge, number 14. So, Andrew, who do we have that we're welcoming for episode 14?
One of my favorite people in all of the business, Nicole Prano,
Aw.
she's super awesome. And I got to meet her in the very first AIM event that I went to back in 2018. And she's just always been a really incredible source of information. She's so positive. She was always there to help people. And I thought there would be nobody better than Nicole and I probably said her last name wrong, but I'm sorry, Nicole.
Moreno?
Love you. Moreno. There's
I
Branio,
love her
Moreno.
videos.
Moreno. There's a Moreno story.
We love Nicole, no matter what.
Love Nicole. So that's who I
Absolutely.
nominate for next week.
Looking forward to it. Awesome. All right, Brittany, who do we have?
So I would have obviously voted Michelle, but we know
she was
other
already
people,
on.
Other people have already voted because of how popular she is. So actually, I got to meet this person just on Facebook, and he actually hired my husband. So I felt like I needed to get their name out a little bit, and he's got an interesting perspective and an interesting background as well. So I'm nominating Jason Stevenson from Brandywine Valley Mortgage.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Love that. Awesome. All right. I think PJ already let the cat out of the bag, but PJ, who are you nominating?
I am nominating my wife.
Yay!
And her name is Amy Sweeney Harrigan, CMB. But she goes by Amy Sweeney because she says the Harrigan is silent. And then she usually says, if you know my husband, the Harrigan is never silent. So boom, boom, boom. That's her shtick. But Amy is a CMB. She is a lifelong lender. She has been very actively involved in the mortgage industry from a political perspective, been very active in the Mortgage Bankers Association as chair of the Mortgage Action Alliance, been a fundraiser for MORPAC, been involved in the state and local. She runs a branch and is a producing branch manager for citywide home loans in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to it. Absolutely looking forward to it. Wonderful.
Laura, can I just say one last thing?
Of course, Andrew.
I just want to say thank you to you, to Seppi as well. From the very first moment that I met you, I thought what an incredibly positive person that you are, and how you come across as someone who's very genuine, cares about people. And I've loved your story that you've shared on many occasions of where you've come from, where you're at now. Just getting to know Seppi a little bit too, but I really appreciate what you have both done with this challenge. It's been something very encouraging for all of us. So thank you.
Oh, well,
Yeah, the first time I met you was on an airplane, actually.
Yes.
If you remember, and I have to agree, your positive personality. I was so scared to walk up to you the first time I ever did in Vegas, because I was like, I'm about to walk up to the CEO of AFR, and I didn't even know it.
She was great though. We were literally sitting having breakfast, and she walked right up and had a conversation. But is that not a testament of that's exactly what you should do?
Yeah.
If at any moment in life, in time, that you want to go and meet somebody, or you want to just tell somebody, whatever it is, just do it. we all learned that, right? We all learned that from this, that we don't know what the next day is going to bring. We don't know what the next month is going to bring. So take advantage of it. And thank you all. I mean, obviously, I love so much about our industry and what we've done over the last couple of years of coming together and really unifying and becoming one. It's been glorious. And thank you for everything that you guys do. Thank you for being part of this. I'm so excited for next week. Can't wait. And be well, everyone.
Thank
Take
you for
care.
having us.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Bye,
Bye.
Brittany.
Bye.